So, think about the strongest, like most reliable person you know.
Oh, right. We all have that one person in our lives.
Exactly. The one who essentially holds everyone else together. They walk into a room and quietly, almost invisibly, they just kind of rearrange the gravity of it.
Yeah, and it's not through some loud spectacle or like a
No,
performance.
they just have this undeniable density to their presence. But what if the very strength that makes them completely indispensable is exactly what's trapping them?
That is such a fascinating question.
It really is. So today we are doing a deep dive into a character study from our sources, and it's titled The Architecture of a Soul, Holliella Golden.
And just to clarify, the goal here isn't just to talk about one specific woman.
Right.
We're
No.
using her story to explore this incredibly universal tension that, well, we all wrestle with. That friction between the protective, perfected structures we build around our lives and the raw, unedited self underneath them.
Okay, let's unpack this because I love that gravity analogy we started with. It's invisible, but it anchors everything around it. So, how does someone actually develop that kind of energetic weight? I mean, is it a conscious choice?
It's a profound question, honestly. And understanding Holliella means looking at her baseline.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't a choice, and it definitely wasn't a learned behavior.
Wait, really? She wasn't like taught to be this way.
No, she didn't go to some rigorous boarding school to learn discipline. The sources point out that she was essentially constitutionally born into the language of foundation.
Wait, okay, the language of foundation, that sounds incredibly poetic, but what does that actually mean in plain English? Are we just talking to someone who's um naturally organized?
I know it sounds a bit abstract,
Hmm.
but it goes way deeper than just being organized. It means her energetic signature, like right from the moment she arrived in the world, operates on the vocabulary of form, endurance, and mastery.
Oh, wow. So it's baked in.
Exactly. Because for most of us, discipline is a tool. You pick it up when you need to finish a massive project at work or train for a marathon, and then you put it down when you just want to relax on the weekend.
Right. I definitely put it down on the weekend.
Yeah, most of us do. But for someone wired like Holliella, foundation isn't a tool she picks up. It is the very grammar of her inner life. It's how she operates on a cellular level.
So it dictates like how she loves, how she grieves, how she processes reality.
Yes, all of it. Her ability to build and endure is without a doubt her greatest superpower. But, this is what we're really going to dig into, is simultaneously her most complex, isolating challenge.
Because if you are constantly acting as the foundation, you are constantly carrying weight. You don't just, get to turn that off.
You really don't.
Let's actually look at the mechanics of how she interacts with the world every single day. She apparently filters every decision, every relationship, every creative project through three incredibly intense questions.
Yes, and these are so revealing.
They are. The questions are, is it real? Is it lasting? And does it mean something?
I just want everyone to let those three questions sink in for a second. Is it real? Is it lasting? Does it mean something?
It's a lot.
It is, because if you are genuinely applying that filter to every aspect of your life, you're immediately eliminating all the superficial noise. You aren't engaging in shallow small talk at some networking event.
Right, and you aren't taking on a side project just to pass the time or look busy.
Exactly.
But I mean, if I applied those three questions to my average Tuesday, I'd probably end up quitting my job and never speaking to half my acquaintances again.
Yeah, it's an intense way to live.
It requires bringing the full weight of yourself to absolutely everything you commit to. The sources describe her as a cornerstone because whatever she puts herself behind tends to hold.
It's an incredible trait to have.
It is, and I read that and I marveled at it, but I also immediately felt this wave of exhaustion just reading about it. So I have to push back a little here.
Oh.
Are we sure we aren't just romanticizing a workaholic? I mean, is it not deeply exhausting to never, ever do anything halfway?
Oh, it is entirely exhausting. But what's fascinating here is that the exhaustion isn't always conscious for her.
Really? How could it not be?
Well, think about it like this. When something is your native language, speaking doesn't feel like an effort, at least not until you lose your voice entirely. She isn't trying to be intense, she's just operating according to her nature.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the trap you're pointing out is very real.
Yeah, because I was thinking of an analogy. It's like a house, right? And she is the load-bearing wall.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Everyone inside that house relies on her to keep the roof from caving in. The drywall gets all the decorative paint, the windows get the nice views, the floors get polished. But the load-bearing wall is doing the actual invisible, unglamorous work of holding reality together.
Yes, exactly.
But here's the problem with that. Who supports the load-bearing wall? If your entire identity is built around keeping the roof up, what happens when you just want to, like, collapse on the couch for a minute?
Well, the harsh reality is the load-bearing wall doesn't get to collapse. And that is the exact danger
Yeah.
of this personality type. These aren't just adopted philosophies she uses to be successful.
Right, it's that inner grammar you mentioned.
Exactly. When your default mode is heavy lifting, you risk becoming trapped by your own strength. If you are always the cornerstone, people just stop asking if you need to be held.
Because they assume you're fine.
Right, because you always look fine. You always handle it. And worse, you start to assume you're fine too. You end up confusing your structural integrity with your emotional well-being.
Oh, wow. Confusing your structural integrity with your emotional well-being, that is heavy. Because you think, well, if I can hold it together and keep the project running, I must be okay.
Exactly, which is a dangerous metric.
So if she is this master builder on the outside, what kind of architecture is she building on the inside? Because all that pressure has to go somewhere, right?
It does. And here we encounter the great paradox of Holliella's strength. The exact same energy that makes her a reliable builder in the external world makes her a rigid controller of her own internal landscape.
And the sources say she feels things with tremendous depth, like she is not numb or detached.
No, not at all. She's incredibly sensitive, actually, but she manages that depth with terrifying efficiency.
Right. She channels those deep emotions into action rather than just inhabiting them. Stillness actually feels threatening to her.
Yes, very threatening.
It's described in the text as standing in a field with no walls to point to, no proof of purpose. So her busyness isn't just about getting things done. It's this highly sophisticated emotional architecture.
Think about the physics of emotion for a second. Emotion is literally energy in motion. It wants to flow, it wants to be felt, and then it wants to dissipate.
Naturally, yeah.
But if you are someone whose entire existence is predicated on a form, structure, and control, raw, flowing emotion is absolutely terrifying. It's formless, it's chaotic, it doesn't obey the rules of a blueprint.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's like treating your emotions as a wild river, and she feels like that river absolutely must be dammed up.
Yes, she can't just sit on the bank and watch the water go by.
No, she has to build a massive concrete structure, route that chaotic water through these tiny intake valves, spin a hydroelectric turbine, and turn that emotional water into quote-unquote usable electricity.
That is such a vivid way to capture it.
She turns grief into a reorganized garage. She turns anxiety into a perfectly executed 5-year plan.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, she's organizing her emotions rather than experiencing them. And the tricky part is society actually rewards this.
Oh, completely.
We praise people who turn their pain into productivity. But I'd encourage you listening to ask yourself right now, how often do you use productivity to avoid sitting alone with your feelings?
I think a lot of people driving to work right now just felt a little targeted by that.
I mean, how often is your to-do list actually a shield against your own internal reality?
Using productivity to avoid sitting with yourself. It's so common. But I'm struggling with this a bit. Isn't that shield actually a really effective survival mechanism?
Oh, without a doubt. The human psyche is incredibly resourceful, and it will use whatever tools it has available to protect itself from pain or uncertainty.
So for someone with Holliella's skill set, competence is the ultimate shield.
Exactly. It creates this impenetrable interior fortress. And the tragic beauty of this fortress is that it works. It keeps her safe. It keeps her functioning at a very high level when other people would just fall apart.
But there's a catch.
Always. A fortress designed to keep the chaos out also keeps the person locked inside. It creates a profound sense of isolation, even when she is surrounded by people.
Because they aren't interacting with her.
Right, those people are interacting with the fortress, the competence, the reliability, the advice. They aren't interacting with the actual soul living inside it.
Man, that is isolating. So if she's holding all of that chaotic emotion inside this fortress, how does she keep it from leaking out when she interacts with the wider world? Because she obviously still has to work, build relationships, and, exist in society.
She manages it through intense private preparation. And to understand why, you really have to look at the context of her generation.
Right. The sources talk about this generational echo. They inherited systems that are showing deep cracks.
Yes. They were handed a world where the pre-existing architectures, whether that's social, economic, or institutional, are just revealing their insufficiency everywhere.
So for Holliella, this macro-level instability translates into what? A micro-level need to control things.
More specifically, an internal need to understand the absolute whole picture before she acts. She feels she can't rely on the external world structures, so she has to make absolutely sure her own are flawless.
Oh, I see. And she is a synthesizer. She doesn't just have random fragmented thoughts that she blurts out in a meeting. Her insights arrive as full, complete architectures.
Right. She gathers information from a dozen different streams, holds it internally, and just waits for it to crystallize.
Which is an amazing cognitive gift.
It's an extraordinary gift to be able to see the interconnectedness of things like that. But the operational side effect is that she waits. She prepares. She refines in private. She will only present her ideas or herself when she feels entirely ready.
But readiness becomes a moving target. And I really have to push back on this entire concept of readiness.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't getting ready just a really clever, socially acceptable disguise for fear?
In many cases, yes.
Like, think about house renovations. It's like refusing to invite your friends over for dinner because you're renovating the kitchen. You tell yourself, I just need to finish the backsplash.
And then the backsplash is done.
Right, the backsplash is done, and you say, well, the baseboards aren't painted yet, and you just keep moving the target of ready. As a result, you end up missing out on years of joyful, messy, wonderful dinner parties just because the baseboards aren't perfect.
This raises an important question, though. You're touching on the critical difference between genuine preparation and defensive perfectionism.
Because her preparation isn't fake.
No, for Holliella, the preparation is very real. When her insights do arrive, they are deeply profound precisely because she has actually done the work.
Yeah.
But the perfectionism is the defensive layer wrapped around that preparation.
So why does the baseboard need to be painted before anyone can come over?
Because if it isn't, she feels she will be judged entirely on the unpainted baseboard, not the beautiful meal she cooked or the warmth of her company.
Because to be seen is to be assessed.
Exactly. When you have a psyche that holds itself to impossibly high internal standards, external assessment feels like an existential threat.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It requires immense courage to say, here's my unfinished thought, here's my unpainted baseboard, here is my messy heart. The architect in her wants everything plumb, level, and square before the inspection.
But the danger there is that her fear of a flawed exterior can delay her brilliance from ever reaching the world. I mean, the world is starved for the depth of her insight, but she's holding it back, waiting for the structure to be unassailable.
Which brings us to the ultimate shift, the transition.
Right, the central curriculum.
Yeah.
So how does someone who is fundamentally wired to build flawless exteriors learn to dismantle their own fortress? Because that seems like asking a fish to climb a tree. It goes against everything we've established about her language of foundation.
It does seem that way. But the blueprint of her arrival encodes completion, wholeness, the full circle. This means her life isn't actually about becoming a better, more efficient architect. Her life is fundamentally oriented toward integration.
Okay, marrying the strong and the tender, the disciplined and the surrender.
Exactly. Taking these seemingly opposing forces and recognizing they belong to the same whole. The core lesson, her central curriculum, is learning that strength does not require hardness.
Which is wild because we equate the two so often. We think a diamond is strong because it's hard. You know, you can't scratch it, you can't break it.
Right.
But a tree is strong because it bends in the wind. If a tree was as hard as a diamond, it would just snap in a hurricane.
That is a perfect metaphor. Holliella has mastered the strength of the diamond. She has the endurance, the unbreakability. Now she is learning the strength of the tree. The world doesn't need her perfected. It needs her real.
So when she emits her light unfiltered, without first checking if the structural architecture is sound, without checking if the baseboards are painted, something magical actually opens around her.
It does.
So what does this all mean? It's kind of the journey of someone who has lived her entire life inside a highly fortified, perfectly engineered stone castle. The walls are 10 feet thick, the gates are solid iron, the drawbridge is up. Nothing can hurt her in there.
Nothing gets in, nothing gets out.
Right. But the transition she is being called to make is packing up her things, walking out of the keep, and choosing to sleep outside in the open-air courtyard.
Which is terrifying.
Completely terrifying. Because there is no roof. There is no protection from the elements or from other people, but it's the only way you can ever actually see the stars.
And that speaks directly to her deepest, most hidden yearning. The desire to rest inside something she did not have to construct herself.
Oh, that gave me chills.
Think about the exhaustion of being the load-bearing wall we talked about earlier. The cure for that exhaustion isn't a vacation. It's not a spa day. The cure is surrender.
Wow.
True mastery for Holliella isn't drafting the blueprint for yet another flawless structure. True mastery is cultivating an honest interior. It's trusting that if she steps into that courtyard, the universe will hold her and she doesn't have to build the ground she is standing on.
Moving from the architect of your safety to simply a resident of your own life, that is beautiful. As we wrap up this exploration into the story of Holliella Golden, let's just look at the sheer distance of this journey.
It's massive.
We started with the heavy cornerstone, the person who brings the full, undeniably dense weight of their integrity to everything they touch. Then we explored the protective interior fortress, that highly sophisticated emotional architecture built out of busyness and competence just to manage the wild river of her feelings.
Right.
And finally, we arrived at this courageous act of integration, the realization that her greatest construction won't be a building or a project or a flawless reputation. Her greatest construction is ultimately the courage to be exactly who she is without revision and without apology.
And that transition from perfected to real is the work of a lifetime. It is the curriculum we are all enrolled in, whether we realize it or not.
Absolutely. So I want to turn this directly to you listening right now. Think about your own life. Think about your own architectures. Where are you pouring all of your precious energy into building a flawless exterior?
What baseboards are you obsessively painting while your friends are waiting outside the door?
Such a great question. What protective structures are you maintaining just to manage your own radiance?
I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over long after this discussion ends. If you decided to stop doing maintenance on the architecture of your perfect self today, what kind of light would immediately start spilling out through the cracks?